Millions of couples sit down to dinner every night in beautiful, perfectly decorated homes, even though the adults at the table are quietly drumming in a secret financial panic. So why does this terrifying silence never disappear? Picture a perfectly normal neighborhood on a Saturday afternoon. You see manicured lawns, pristine SUVs in the driveways, and families laughing at a block party. From the outside, everyone looks incredibly successful. Everyone appears to be financially stable. You look at your neighbors and you naturally assume that they have it all figured out. But when the sun goes down and the front doors lock, a completely different reality begins. Spouses sit on opposite sides of the living room, silently staring at their phones. One is secretly stressing over a rising credit card balance. The other is panicking about a looming tuition bill. They are both terrified, but neither of them says a single word. They smile, they keep the peace, and they go to sleep. A long, brilliant, entirely invisible trap has just been executed right inside your own home. We are culturally conditioned to believe that money is the ultimate taboo. We are taught that talking about personal finances is rude, classless, or incredibly awkward. We will freely discuss our deepest medical issues, our relationship struggles, and our political fears, but the moment the topic of net worth or debt comes up, the room goes dead silent. You think avoiding the money conversation is just a polite way to keep the peace in your household. But actually, this silence is engineering a quiet financial crisis. Most people believe that financial ruin happens because of a lack of information. They assume that if they just had a better spreadsheet, a smarter budgeting app, or a higher salary, all of their money anxiety would instantly vanish. But the tragedy of the modern household is not a lack of information, it is a lack of honest dialogue. Almost always, families avoid discussing money until a massive, unavoidable crisis physically forces the issue. They wait until the car is repossessed, the mortgage is incredibly late, or the secret debt is finally uncovered. But the real reason this habit of silence destroys wealth is much stranger. Most people disagree about this. If you ask traditional etiquette experts, they will fiercely defend the idea that personal finances should always be kept private. They argue that discussing money breeds jealousy and resentment. Some sociologists and economists argue the exact opposite. They point out that financial secrecy is a societal weapon used to keep the working class completely isolated, confused, and permanently trapped in debt. Here is where people are split. Is financial privacy a sign of good manners, or is it a psychological cage? People don't make bad money decisions. They respond to the environment around them. And your environment aggressively trains you to tie your human worth directly to your net worth. Society has convinced you that if you are struggling with money, you are fundamentally a failure as an adult. This creates a deep, agonizing sense of shame. When you feel shame, your biological instinct is to hide. You hide the Amazon boxes. You intercept the mail before your spouse sees the credit card statement. You silently carry the crushing weight of a bad financial decision because you are absolutely terrified that if you speak up, the person you love most will judge you. But look at this exact same situation from a completely different economic position. Imagine two brilliant entrepreneurs running a massive, highly profitable corporation. If one business partner secretly lost $50,000, would they hide the loss from the other partner just to keep the mood in the office positive? Would they intercept the accounting reports to protect the other person's feelings? Absolutely not. They would immediately call a board meeting. They would put the raw, uncomfortable numbers directly on the table. They would look at the data without emotion, and they would solve the mathematical problem as a unified team. If they hid the numbers to protect their egos, the business would be bankrupt in a week. Yet, millions of people run their households exactly like a failing corporation. The biggest financial advantage isn't intelligence, it's which game you're playing. The silent household is playing a game of ego preservation. They are prioritizing the illusion of success over the reality of security. They are desperately trying to solve an emotional feeling of uncertainty with a mathematical solution, completely ignoring the fact that a spreadsheet cannot cure shame. The wealthy and the truly secure play a completely different game. They play a game of radical transparency. They know that financial planning only succeeds when uncertainty becomes entirely visible rather than hidden in the dark. Let's slowly reveal the invisible forces holding this system of silence together. The incentives of the massive credit card and banking industries rely heavily on your individual isolation. When you are too ashamed to tell your partner about a debt, you cannot tackle the balance together. You cannot consolidate household assets to wipe it out. Instead, you just quietly, desperately make the minimum monthly payments by yourself. Your silence is the exact mechanism that guarantees the bank a lifetime of high-interest profit. The structures of the modern consumer economy are meticulously designed to make you feel like everyone else is infinitely wealthier than you are. Social media algorithms feed you a non-stop stream of luxury vacations and flawless home renovations, artificially inflating your baseline for what a normal life looks like. The social pressures demand that you keep up with this invisible standard, forcing you to use leverage and secret debt just to maintain the facade. And the probabilities dictate a ruthless, undeniable truth. A secret debt does not sit still. It aggressively compounds. The longer you wait to have the uncomfortable conversation, the higher the mathematical certainty that the crisis will eventually detonate your entire life. The system relies entirely on your silence. The people who wake up in their 50s, sitting in a beautiful house but feeling entirely suffocated by financial panic, did not fail the system. They followed the system perfectly. They did exactly what the economy required them to do. They bought the socially approved assets, they kept their struggles perfectly hidden, they absorbed the shame, paid the interest, and maintained the beautiful illusion for their neighbors. They were spectacular, highly compliant consumers. Wealth is often less about effort and more about position. If you position yourself alone, carrying the emotional and financial burden in complete secret, your effort will constantly be drained by anxiety. You will fight a two-front war against the financial institutions and your own conscience. You will spend decades managing money without ever defining what enough actually looks like, chasing a feeling of safety that remains permanently out of reach. But if you position yourself as a unified team, the entire power dynamic flips. When you finally understand the mechanics of this silent crisis, the traditional rules of polite society shatter completely. You stop treating a bad financial decision like a massive moral failure. You realize that a hidden credit card, a missed investment, or a moment of overspending is just misplaced inventory. It is just a math problem waiting to be solved. You see that the greatest risk in financial planning isn't market volatility. It isn't a sudden recession or a drop in the stock market. The greatest risk is spending your entire life sleeping next to someone, yet living in a completely different financial reality. You realize that the strongest financial systems in the world are rarely built on complex spreadsheets or secret investing strategies. They're built on communication. The system wants you to feel alone, because an isolated consumer is an incredibly profitable consumer. You can keep playing the game of silent panic. You can keep smiling at the block party, intercepting the mail, and carrying the agonizing, suffocating weight of the illusion all by yourself. Or you could finally sit down at the kitchen table, look at the person you love, and drop the shield. The math problem can almost always be fixed, but the true freedom only begins the exact moment you finally speak the numbers out loud.